On the coldest night of the year, a tired waitress made a choice that should have been simple: help a stranger out of the snow. But that one act of kindness pulled her into a world she never knew existed, a world of power, danger, and secrets. Because the old woman freezing at her door wasn't just anyone. She was the mother of Chicago's most dangerous man. And now he owed her everything. This is the story of how a single moment of compassion changed two lives forever. This is the Snowstorm Savior. There are nights that change everything. Nights when the world narrows down to a single choice, a single moment, a single act of kindness that ripples out in ways you could never predict. For Maya Johnson, that night came during the worst blizzard Chicago had seen in 20 years. She didn't know it yet, but by morning, her entire life would be different. It was a little past 11 when her manager, Rick, grabbed his coat and headed for the door. The diner was empty, had been for hours. The storm outside was howling like a wounded animal, shaking the windows, piling snow against the glass in thick white drifts. The streetlights barely cut through the dark. The world had turned into a swirling, frozen void. "Lock up when you're done, Maya," Rick said, not even looking back. "And don't stay too late. Roads are getting bad." She nodded, wiping down the counter for what felt like the 100th time that night. "Yeah, I'll be quick." The door swung shut behind him, and then it was just her. Alone in the fluorescent glow of the diner, surrounded by empty booths and the faint smell of old coffee and grease. The kind of place that had seen better days. The kind of place where people stopped only because they had to, not because they wanted to. Maya was 26, but some days she felt twice that. Her back ached from the double shift. Her feet throbbed in her worn-out sneakers. Her tips for the night barely covered gas money. This was her life now, scraping by, paycheck to paycheck, day after endless day. No family nearby. No boyfriend. No plan except to survive until tomorrow. She moved through the closing routine on autopilot. Wiping tables. Refilling salt shakers. Turning off the grill. The wind screamed outside, rattling the old building like it wanted to tear it apart. She pulled her cardigan tighter around her shoulders. The heater was struggling tonight. Just get through this, she told herself. Lock the door. Go home. Sleep. Wake up. Do it all again. But then she heard it. A sound so faint she almost missed it. A soft, desperate knock on the glass. Maya froze, dish rag still in her hand. She turned toward the front window, squinting through the frost and the swirling snow. And that's when she saw her. An old woman. Small, frail, hunched against the storm. Her coat was too thin. Her hair was white and wild, whipping around her face. She was shivering violently, one pale hand pressed against the glass, the other clutching her chest. Their eyes met. The woman's lips moved, but Maya couldn't hear the words. Only the plea in her eyes. "Help me." Maya's heart clenched. She glanced at the clock. At the door. At the phone on the wall. Company policy was clear. No one in after closing. Lock the doors. Go home. Don't get involved. But this wasn't some drunk looking for a free meal. This was an old woman, alone in a blizzard, freezing to death. Maya didn't think. She just moved. She crossed the diner in 3 long strides and unlocked the door. The wind hit her like a fist, icy and brutal, stealing the breath from her lungs. She grabbed the woman's arm and pulled her inside, slamming the door shut behind them. "Oh my God," Maya breathed, looking at her. "Ma'am, are you okay? What are you doing out there?" The woman didn't answer. She was trembling so hard she could barely stand. Her lips were blue. Her skin was pale as paper. She looked around the diner with wide, confused eyes, like she didn't know where she was or how she'd gotten there. "Come here," Maya said gently, guiding her to the nearest booth. "Sit down. I've got you." She eased the woman onto the cracked vinyl seat, then rushed to grab every clean towel she could find. She wrapped them around the woman's shoulders, tucking them tight, trying to trap whatever warmth was left in her body. "What's your name?" Maya asked softly. "Do you live near here?" The woman blinked slowly. Her voice, when it came, was faint and shaky. "Han, my name is Mrs. Han." "Mrs. Han," Maya repeated, crouching down to meet her eyes. "Do you know where you are?" The woman shook her head, tears welling up. I don't know. I was walking. I got lost. So cold." Maya's chest tightened. This woman wasn't just lost. She was disoriented. Maybe sick. Maybe something worse. And out there, in that storm, she wouldn't have lasted another hour. Maya made a decision. "Okay," she said firmly. "You're safe now. I'm going to take care of you. She hurried to the kitchen and put a pot of soup on the stove, leftover chicken noodle from the lunch rush. While it heated, she cranked up the diner's ancient heater as high as it would go. She brought Mrs. Han a cup of hot water with lemon, wrapping the woman's cold fingers around it. Drink this, Maya urged. Slow sips. It'll help. Mrs. Han obeyed, her hands shaking so badly that Maya had to help steady the cup. After a few minutes, a little color started to return to her cheeks. Her shivering eased just slightly. Maya brought over the soup, still steaming. Here, eat, please. The old woman took a spoonful, then another. And then, to Maya's relief, she kept eating. Slowly, carefully, like she was remembering what it felt like to be warm. Outside, the storm raged on. The windows rattled. The snow kept falling. The roads were buried now, impassable. Even if Maya wanted to leave, she couldn't. And even if she could, she wouldn't. She couldn't leave this woman alone. So she stayed. She pulled a chair up to the booth and sat with Mrs. Han, talking softly, asking gentle questions. Where do you live? Do you have family? Is there someone I can call? But Mrs. Han's answers were scattered, fragmented. She didn't know her address. Didn't remember any phone numbers. She kept asking where she was, even after Maya had told her 3 times. It broke Maya's heart, so she stopped asking. She just stayed close. She held the woman's hand. She kept the soup coming. She turned on the old radio behind the counter, tuning it to a soft jazz station, just to fill the silence. Hours passed. The storm didn't let up. Mrs. Han eventually drifted off to sleep, her head resting against the booth cushion, the towels still wrapped around her like a cocoon. Maya stayed awake, watching her, making sure she kept breathing, making sure she stayed warm. She thought about calling the police. But what would they do? The roads were closed. Emergency services were stretched thin. And this woman needed rest, not chaos. I'll figure it out in the morning, Maya told herself. So she curled up in the booth across from Mrs. Han, her own exhaustion finally catching up with her. She pulled her cardigan tight and closed her eyes, listening to the wind howl and the heater hum and the soft, steady breathing of the woman she'd saved. She didn't know who Mrs. Han was. Didn't know where she'd come from. Didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But tonight, she'd done something good. Something right. And that had to be enough. When Maya woke, the first thing she noticed was the light. Pale. Gray. Cold. Dawn. The storm had finally stopped. She sat up slowly, her neck stiff from sleeping in the booth. She blinked, rubbing her eyes, and looked across the table. Mrs. Han was still there, sleeping peacefully. Her breathing was steady. Her color was better. Maya let out a long, shaky breath of relief. She's okay. We made it. She stood, stretching, and walked to the window. The world outside was buried in snow. White as far as she could see. Beautiful. Silent. And then she heard it. The low rumble of engines. Her stomach dropped. She pressed her face to the glass, her breath fogging it up, and squinted through the glare. 3 black SUVs were pulling into the diner's parking lot. Big. Sleek. Expensive. Completely out of place. They stopped in a perfect line. The doors opened. Men stepped out. 6 of them. Maybe more. All wearing dark coats. All moving with the kind of precision that made Maya's pulse spike. And then the back door of the center SUV opened. A man emerged. Tall. Broad-shouldered. Sharp-featured. He wore a long black coat that billowed slightly in the cold wind. His expression was hard. Unreadable. But his eyes were scanning the diner like a predator hunting prey. Maya's hands went cold. Who are these people? The man started walking toward the door. The others followed. Maya's heart hammered in her chest. She took a step back from the window, her mind racing. What do I do? What do I do? She glanced at Mrs. Han, still asleep. And then the door swung open. The man stepped inside. And everything changed. Time seemed to stop. The man stood in the doorway, snowflakes melting on his shoulders, his dark eyes sweeping across the diner like he was taking inventory of every corner, every shadow, every breath. His presence filled the room. Heavy, dangerous, impossible to ignore. Maya's throat went dry. Her feet felt frozen to the floor. Behind him, the other men filed in silently, fanning out along the walls. They didn't speak. Didn't need to. Their mere presence said everything. These were not people you questioned. These were not people you ran from. Because running wouldn't help. The man in the black coat took a slow step forward, his gaze finally landing on Maya. She saw his jaw tighten. Saw something flicker behind his eyes, calculation maybe. Or suspicion. Where is she? His voice was low, controlled, but there was a razor's edge beneath it. Maya's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Her mind screamed at her to answer, to say something, anything, but fear had locked her voice in her chest. The man's eyes narrowed. He took another step. And then, from the booth behind Maya, came a soft, sleepy voice. Daniel. Everything shifted. The man froze. His hard expression cracked, just for a heartbeat, and something raw and desperate flashed across his face. He moved past Maya without a second glance, crossing the diner in 3 long strides. Mom. The word came out rough, broken, like it had been pulled from somewhere deep inside him. He dropped to one knee beside the booth where Mrs. Hahn was sitting up, blinking in confusion, the towels still draped around her shoulders. Daniel? She said again, her frail hand reaching out to touch his face. What are you doing here? Where am I? He took her hand gently, pressing it between both of his. You're safe now. That's all that matters. Maya stood frozen, watching this impossible scene unfold. This man, this terrifying, dangerous man, was cradling the old woman's hand like it was made of glass. His head was bowed. His shoulders had lost their sharp edge. He looked human. Mrs. Hahn's confused gaze drifted past him, landing on Maya. A slow smile spread across her weathered face. This girl, she said softly. She saved me, Daniel. I was so cold, so lost. And she brought me inside. She stayed with me all night. Daniel's head turned slowly. His eyes found Maya again, and this time, there was no suspicion in them. There was something far more complicated. He rose to his feet, his full height towering over her. Maya's heart hammered, but she forced herself to stand still, to meet his gaze even though every instinct screamed at her to look away. You took care of her, he said. It wasn't a question. Maya nodded, her voice finally breaking free. She was freezing. I couldn't leave her out there. For a long moment, Daniel said nothing. He just studied her, his dark eyes searching her face like he was trying to solve a puzzle. Then finally he spoke. Thank you. The words were quiet, simple, but they carried a weight that made Maya's chest tighten. One of the men near the door cleared his throat. Sir, we need to move. If anyone saw. I know, Daniel cut him off, his tone sharp again. He turned back to Mrs. Hahn, his expression softening. Can you walk, Mom? I think so, she said, though her voice was uncertain. Daniel helped her to her feet, supporting her with one arm. He glanced at another man. Get the car ready. Carefully. The man nodded and disappeared outside. Maya stood there, unsure what to do, unsure if she was supposed to say something or just let them leave. Her mind was still spinning, trying to make sense of what was happening. But then Daniel looked at her again. Come with us. Maya blinked. What? You're not safe here. What are you talking about? Daniel's jaw tightened. My mother was taken. She escaped and she ended up here. By now, the people who took her know she's gone. And when they start looking for her, they'll retrace her steps. They'll find this place. They'll find you. The words hit Maya like ice water. But I didn't do anything, she said, her voice rising. I just helped her. I don't even know who you are. That won't matter to them. His voice was flat, matter of fact. Like he was explaining the weather. You're a witness. A loose end. And loose ends don't survive in my world. Maya's blood turned cold. Your world? Daniel didn't answer. He didn't need to. The armed men, the expensive cars, the way everyone moved around him like he was the center of gravity. It all told her everything she needed to know. He was dangerous. Powerful. And she had just stumbled into something far bigger than herself. I can't just leave, Maya said, her voice shaking. I have a job. I have a life. Not anymore. Daniel's tone wasn't cruel. It was certain. Final. You have 2 choices. Come with me, and I'll keep you safe. Or stay here, and hope they don't find you first. Maya's hands trembled. This is insane. Yes, Daniel agreed. It is. Mrs. Hahn reached out, touching Maya's arm with her thin fingers. Please, dear. He's right. I don't want anything to happen to you. Maya looked into the old woman's eyes, kind, worried, grateful, and felt her resolve crumble. What choice did she really have? She took a shaky breath. Okay. The penthouse was nothing like Maya had ever seen. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Chicago skyline. Marble floors. Expensive furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum. Everything was sleek, modern, cold. Beautiful. And utterly isolating. She stood in the living room, arms wrapped around herself, while Mrs. Hahn was taken to a bedroom down the hall by a nurse who'd appeared out of nowhere. Daniel had disappeared somewhere, probably to make calls, issue orders, do whatever crime bosses did. Maya sank onto the edge of a pristine white couch and put her head in her hands. What have I done? The sound of footsteps made her look up. Daniel stood in the doorway, his coat gone, his sleeves rolled up. He looked tired. Human again. She's resting, he said. The doctor will check on her in the morning. Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. Daniel crossed the room and sat in the chair across from her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. I need to ask you something, he said finally. Maya lifted her head. What? Marry me. The words hung in the air like a grenade. Maya stared at him, certain she'd misheard. What? It's the only way to protect you, Daniel said, his tone calm, clinical. If you're my wife, you're untouchable. No one in my world would dare come after you. You'd be under my protection, legally and publicly. You're insane, Maya whispered. Maybe. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. But I'm also right. You saved my mother's life. That means something to me. And because it means something to me, you're in danger. This is the only solution. This isn't a solution, Maya said, her voice cracking. This is a prison. It's survival. She wanted to scream, to run, to wake up and find out this was all some horrible nightmare. But Daniel's eyes were steady. Serious. He wasn't joking. I can't, Maya said, shaking her head. I can't just. You can. And you will. His voice softened, just slightly. I'm not asking you to love me. I'm not asking you to pretend this is real. I'm asking you to let me keep you alive. Tears burned in Maya's eyes. She looked away, her hands clenched into fists. What if I say no? Then I'll do my best to protect you anyway, Daniel said quietly. But it won't be enough. The silence stretched between them, heavy and suffocating. Finally, Maya whispered, How long? As long as it takes. She closed her eyes. And then, voice barely audible, she said, Okay. The days blurred together. Maya lived in the penthouse like a ghost. She had her own room, her own space. But it didn't feel like freedom. It felt like a gilded cage. Mrs. Hahn was her only comfort. The old woman recovered quickly, her spirits lifting as her strength returned. She would sit with Maya in the mornings, drinking tea, telling stories about her childhood in Korea, asking Maya about her life before all this. Maya found herself looking forward to those moments. Mrs. Hahn felt like family. Daniel, on the other hand, was a shadow. He came and went at odd hours. Sometimes she'd see him in the hallway, his expression unreadable. Sometimes she'd hear his voice behind closed doors, sharp and commanding. He never pushed, never demanded anything from her. But his presence was always there, watching, protecting. One night, 3 weeks after she'd arrived, Daniel found her standing by the window, staring out at the city lights. Can't sleep? He asked quietly. She shook her head. He stepped beside her, hands in his pockets, following her gaze. Do you regret it? He asked after a moment. Helping her. Maya thought about it. Really thought about it. No, she said finally. I regret what came after. But not that. Daniel nodded slowly. For what it's worth. I'm sorry. She turned to look at him, surprised. I'm sorry you got pulled into this, he continued, his voice low. You didn't deserve it. Neither did you, Maya said quietly. He glanced at her, something vulnerable flickering in his eyes. And for the first time she saw him. Not the crime boss. Not the dangerous man. Just Daniel. A man carrying the weight of a world she couldn't imagine. Why do you do this? She asked. This life. Why? He was quiet for a long time. Then, finally, he said, Because I didn't have a choice either. The gala was Daniel's idea. You need to be seen, he'd explained. If we're going to make this believable, people need to know who you are. So Maya found herself in a dress that cost more than 3 months of her old rent, standing in a ballroom full of people who looked like they'd stepped out of a magazine. Dangerous people. Powerful people. Daniel's people. She stayed close to him, her hand resting lightly on his arm. He introduced her as his wife. People smiled, nodded, looked at her with curiosity and calculation. It was terrifying. And then, halfway through the night, a man approached. He was older, heavy-set, with cold eyes and a cruel smile. Daniel, he said smoothly. And this must be the famous wife. Where did you find her? A diner? The insult was casual, careless. But the room went quiet. Daniel's hand tightened on Maya's waist. Careful, Victor. Victor laughed. Oh, come on. We all know what this is. A charity case. You always did have a soft spot. He didn't finish. Daniel moved so fast Maya barely saw it. One moment he was beside her. The next, Victor was on the ground, blood streaming from his nose, Daniel's hand at his throat. Say another word, Daniel said, his voice deadly calm, and it'll be your last. The room was frozen. Maya's heart pounded. Daniel released Victor and stood, straightening his suit like nothing had happened. He took Maya's hand. We're leaving. That night, in the silence of the penthouse, Daniel found Maya in the kitchen. I'm sorry you saw that, he said. I'm not, Maya replied. He looked at her, surprised. I'm not sorry, she repeated. Because now I understand. This is your world. And you were protecting me. Daniel exhaled slowly. You shouldn't have to live in this world, Maya. Maybe not, she said. But I'm here. And I'm not leaving. His eyes searched hers. I can still get you out. New identity. Money. A fresh start. You'd be free. Maya stepped closer. I don't want to be free, she said quietly. I want to stay. Why? Because you saved me too. For a long moment, they just stood there, the space between them charged with something neither could name. And then Daniel smiled. A real smile. Small but real. Then stay, he said. Outside, the snow began to fall again. But inside, for the first time in a long time, Maya felt warm.